in the matter of human rights, democratization and development. Madam Commissioner, thank you very much for coming, and you have the floor, please.
Thank you very much. As introduced by the chair, my name is Aisha Abdullahi. I'm the commissioner for the presiding over the Department of Political Affairs at the African Union. And this afternoon, I'm going to speak to you on the transition from the OAU to the AU, decolonization, democratization, and development. The history of the African continent has been for centuries defined by its struggle for independence, democracy, and development. It wasn't by coincidence that the Organization for African Unity was established in 1963 as a response to the African quest for independence from colonial rule. The OAU became a central feature of the continent's struggle for decolonization, political and economic emancipation, and assertion by African states, particularly regarding their right to self-determination and independence. Self-determination in this context included the rights of Africans to benefit from the exploitation of their own natural resources, a central part of the right to development. Based on the exigencies of the time, the charter establishing the OAU was based on the principles of state sovereignty and non-interference. But the only way sovereignty could be attained was through decolonization. This explains why the OAU prioritized the decolonization of Africa. Indeed, Africa could not have been considered the free land that it is if it hadn't gained its independence, which was achieved through self-determination and also bringing an end to apartheid. After the OAU was formed in 1963, decolonization was to be the central concern of the organization for quite some time. Consequently, Article 20 of the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, adopted in 1981, which came into force in 1986, provides that 1. All peoples shall have the right to existence. They shall have the unquestionable and inalienable right to self-determination. They shall freely determine their political status and shall pursue their economic and social development according to the policy they have freely chosen. 2. Colonized or oppressed peoples shall have the right to free themselves from the bonds of domination by resorting to any means recognized by the international community. 3. All peoples shall have the right to the assistance of the states parties to the present charter in their liberation struggle against foreign domination, be it political, economic, or cultural. The African Charter unequivocally recognized that Africa's development and Africa's liberation could not be complete without political, economic, and cultural emancipation. It needs also to be emphasized that the issue of human rights and the discourse on equality of human beings was a central principle of the struggle for independence. Those who were agitating for freedom and independence premised their quests and causes on the argument that by their very nature, colonialism and apartheid were unjust, that they violated fundamental human rights of the colonized people to liberty, and also exploited the collective right of nations to access, use, and equitably benefit from their own natural resources. With persistence and determination of our leaders, the fight for decolonization and liberation was achieved with the collapse of apartheid in South Africa in the early 1990s. With the end of decolonization, it becomes necessary for the organization to reinvent itself to meet current challenges. Consequently, with the advent of the African Union in 2002, it became clear that democratization and development were central tenets of the continental body. Since then, several developments have reinforced Africa's commitment towards human rights, democracy, governance, and development. These included the following. We have the new Partnership for Africa's Development, which placed human rights, the acronym for NEPAD, which placed human rights at the center of Africa's development agenda and articulated the vision and strategic framework to address poverty and underdevelopment on the African continent. NEPAD, as earlier mentioned, the acronym for the new Partnership for Africa's Development, focused on poverty, underdevelopment, eradicating poverty and underdevelopment on the African continent. By focusing on poverty eradication and recognizing that placing African countries both individually and collectively on a path of sustainable growth and development, ending Africa's marginalization in global economic processes and increasing the continent's full and beneficial integration into the global economy would ensure Africa's development. It also recognized that sustainable development could only be ensured by securing peace and security, democracy, and sound political, economic, and corporate governance, as well as regional cooperation and integration. It encouraged policy reforms in key strategic areas, including agriculture, human resources development, with a focus on health, education, science, and technology, building and improving infrastructure, including roads and telecommunications, promoting diversification of production and exports, especially in agro-industry, manufacturing, mining, and mineral processing, and tourism, accelerating trade among African countries, and improving access for their exports to markets and in advanced countries, as well as conserving the environment. The Constitutive Act of the African Union was also another major intervention, which was adopted in the year 2000. Also made it clear that human rights were a priority and crucial to the building of democratic and developed nations. The Constitutive Act also portrayed a marked departure by the African Union from the OAU Charter in the following ways. One, it transformed the approach of the continental body from a principle of non-interference and unquestioned state sovereignty to one of non-indifference, including the right of the AU to intervene in any member state's affairs as contained in Article 4H. 2, explicit recognition of human rights, including the promotion of social, economic, and cultural development. And 3, an approach based on human-centered development and also gender equality. The acknowledgement of the centrality of human rights for development and the recognition that human rights are inseparable from democracy and good governance through the adoption of several human rights instruments such as the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, the African Charter on Rights and Welfare of the Child, the Protocol to the African Charter on Human and People's Rights on the Rights of Women in Africa, also known as the Women's Protocol or the Maputo Protocol, and the Protocol on the establishment of the African Court on Human and People's Rights. the adoption of the African Charter on Democracy, Governance and Elections as a specific guideline on the democratization of the continent, outlawing unconstitutional changes of government and encouraging the holding of free, fair and credible elections to usher in legitimate governments for the African peoples. The setting up of institutions to effectively enforce these instruments, such as the African Commission on the Charter and Human and People's Rights, the African Committee of Experts on the Rights and Welfare of the Child, the African Court on Human and People's Rights, the Pan-African Parliament, the Economic, Social and Cultural Council, ECOSOC, the Peace and Security Council, and the African Peer Review Mechanism. As the AU goes forward, it becomes paramount that it continues to prioritize key areas that will enhance the growth of the continent as a contender with other continents. Some of the key issues that engage the continent's attention henceforth include human rights, with particular emphasis on the enforcement of all human rights instruments adopted so far at the national and continental level. Human security, by focusing on improving the totality of individual security, by tackling emerging threats such as climate change, human trafficking, drug trafficking, arms smuggling and arms trafficking, cyber security, piracy, and other such threats. And also interventions in peace and security through the ending of the scourge of war, which continues to take its toll on the human resources of Africa and reduces the quality of life of many African citizens in war-torn parts of the continent. Therefore, as the AU celebrates its 50th anniversary, the focus now is on promoting peace and stability through integration, greater unity, democratization, and sustainable development. This would hopefully lead to a peaceful, prosperous, and united Africa, driven by its own citizens. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Excellency, Madam Commissioner. Colleagues, you have the floor for your questions, please. Yes, please. Would you introduce yourself and your media before? Wait for the micro, please. Mullah. Give the micro, please. Here.
Thank you for this chance. My name is Abdullahi from Ashroq TV, Sudan. I think African continent facing many challenges. For example, Mali, South Africa, and Sudan. I think, for example, the conflict in Darfur as a climate area in APA and suspended tensions between Sudan and South Sudan. I think this is a very complicated issue, maybe make heading for international original body in the world. How the African Union solved this problem at the same time mandate of the panel may be finished after 30 days.
Thank you. One more question here, please.
You have told us the journey of the EU and the AU. Do you think? My name is Muluna Gabriel from CCTV. My question is, do you think the commitments and decisions made by heads of state and governments are met during the past 50 years?
Yeah, give me here.
My name is Munir Adam. I'm from Quarter Reporter. Yes, I want to ask you this one question regarding to, is it possible to to name which country in Africa to be taken as the model in terms of achieving a good governance in human rights respecting and poverty reduction. Second question, just a little bit out from what you discussed about the third Afro-Arab Summit to be held in Kuwait, in the state of Kuwait, when it will be. And thanks very much.
Thank you, Excellency. You have the floor, please.
Thank you very much. On the crisis in Sudan and South Sudan, I agree with you that despite several interventions by the African Union, the crisis still lingers. But we also have to admit that the intervention by the AU High Implementation Panel and all the mediators implicated in the crisis is yielding some fruits. Recently, we managed we saw a state visit by President al-Bashir to South Sudan, unprecedented in its history, and it was well received. And the two Sudans remain intertwined by history, by geography, and also by the economies. And they stand to benefit together by cooperating. So I remain very, very enthusiastic that even after the expiration of the 30-day whatever of the negotiation of the mandate of the negotiation team, there could still be new openings. Just because the mandate expires, it doesn't mean that it cannot be renewed if there are still issues to discuss. So we remain enthusiastic that the relationship between the two Sudans would continue to work stronger, despite the few challenges that continue to remain. On the commitment by our heads of states, on this I would say that it is increasing. And we are hopeful that now, as we celebrate our 50th anniversary, all our leaders are going to give a proclamation. And this proclamation shall become like a tonic, a new resolution to act and commit themselves to the various decisions that they have taken together. But I wouldn't want us to only be looking at the leaders. We look at ourselves as the citizens, because now it's no longer about the OAU of African leaders. It is an OAU. It's an AU of African citizens. So yes, our leaders have responsibility to move Africa forward, but we as the citizens, we also have a lot of responsibility to support them to ensure that they succeed. On model countries, we have been following the quality of leadership on the continent. We have several model countries, and we have several indices like the Mo Ibrahim Index, which has given awards to several of our leaders, like the case of Cape Verde with President Perez. We had the case of Mozambique, President Chissano. We have several countries that are doing very well. Botswana, we have Ghana, we have Senegal. All over the continent, we have countries that are doing better in their quality of governance. We are increasingly having credible elections, like we recently had in Sierra Leone, Burkina Faso, in Kenya, in Ghana, and we are having also very successful transitions in the taking over of government. On the Africa-Arab Summit, I know we are busy planning for it. I cannot give you an exact date. I don't have it in my head, but it is coming up very soon. And I will assure you that the Africa-Arab cooperation is waxing stronger. Thank you.
We will take two more questions, please. So one here.
Thank you, Excellency. You did single out the concept of non-interference to that of non-indifference as one of the highlights that distinguishes the old OAU from the AU now. Could you then take us along if non-indifference is a current approach that AU is taking, and yet you mentioned in the middle of your statement was the scourges of war that keep surfacing. One would have assumed that with non-indifference would have reduced the levels of conflict at least to a more tolerable level than what we are having now. Could you take us through, are there impediments? What is it that is, or that would make this non-indifference more effective if we want to have an AU of African citizens?
Merci. And final question here, please.
Thank you. I'm Abdullahi from Ethiopian National Television. My question is a bit concerned with human trafficking. Nowadays, this human trafficking is a very challenge of Ethiopia, and as well, I think it's a problem of Africa as a whole. There is human trafficking intra-Africa and also across a continent to other continents. How did the AU understand this problem, and how is just solving this problem? How is understanding as a whole? That's my question.
Thank you, Excellency.
Thank you very much for your questions. On the policy of non-interference versus non-indifference and the recent, spats of conflicts, crisis that we are witnessing on the continent. This is quite a big concern for the African continent, but I personally see it as a transition phase. Now, as more African countries, as more of our member states experience democracy, as our economies grow, as people are made more aware, as knowledge, becomes more accessible, as we register more participation from the African citizens in our daily activities, and also their role in governance, their role in building the economy, these things are bound to erupt. And we are hoping that this phase that we are now in will be short-lived. And what would follow, considering the fact that 10 out of the 20 fastest growing economies are in Africa, what shall follow would be a brighter and prosperous Africa. This is the way I see it as a transitional phase, and which we shall soon come out of, and which all our member states, all our organs, all the major actors, the private sector, the civil society, everybody is concerned about, and everybody is trying to salvage the situation. I look forward to us overcoming this situation, but I really see it as a transition phase because of the changes that are taking place. On human trafficking, yes, there's human trafficking on the African continent. And I remember recently when I was giving a lecture, I said to them, I said, look, nobody wants to leave home. If Africa is developed, if Africa is secure, if Africa, the quality of life in Africa is conducive, nobody would be leaving Africa, but conversely, other people would be coming to Africa to partake in these opportunities. So the onus is on all of us, the leaders, we the followers, to see how we can improve our situation, and also to protect the rights of these migrant workers. We cannot stop more people moving from across the globe, but let it be done in a decent manner, that the rights and the welfare of these migrant people be protected. And let's also see what we could do to improve our economies, to improve on our quality of governance and our own overall level of security. And this issue of human trafficking is not just peculiar to Ethiopia. I think it's a continental problem that all of us must join our hands together with the civil society and everybody to see that we check this phenomenon. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Commissioner. Thank you, dear colleagues. Our next press conference will be this afternoon at 3 with